Welcome back to NASCAR Lap by Lap with me, Garon Bach. We're going to take a look back at the All-Star race weekend in North Wilkesboro, look ahead at the Charlotte Motor Speedway race weekend, and more importantly, the Coca-Cola 600. And then joining us here shortly will be Dylan Spaulding. To start off, I always like to talk about the last race, but the first thing I want to talk about was the overall environment of last weekend's race at the All Star race in North Wilkesboro. I was very happy to see how the track did overall with the racing. I thought that it would be a one groove track. What we have seen recently in NASCAR has been an issue on the short tracks to where it just becomes a train and you have to move people out of the way. But I thought the overall racing, we saw Kyle Larson make his way from the back of the pack to up front, and now that was some strategy involved as well. But he still went from 19th to 10th about halfway through the race. We saw the moves at the end of the race, Christopher Bell versus Joey Logano, with Christopher Bell getting the win after having to move Joey Logano. But in that sense, it was okay. We didn't have any issues as of what happened last season with Austin Dillon out of Richmond, wrecking Joey Logano, and also wrecking Denny Hamlin. The second thing I want to mention was the man who got beat in that race, Joey Logano. He was moved by Christopher Bell, and Logano seemed to be very upset about it, seemed to have been very agitated with the results because of the fact that he got moved. He called it gimmicky because of the caution that was waived whenever NASCAR decided, hey, let's throw the caution, more so Marty Smith, and then the moment it was Michael Waltrip. But the issue is you can't really call it gimmicky when you're a three-time champion in a gimmicky postseason format. And I think overall the fans were pleased. The Jeff Gluck poll got, I believe, over 85% for an all-star race, which is amazing, especially at North Wilkesboro. We're going into an exciting part of the schedule with many cookie cutters. We're going to be going to some short tracks. We're going to Mexico. Road courses are coming up. And now it seems that the summer months are the exciting months for the sport. When 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you would think, oh, the dreadful summer months, it's going to be boring races owned by, back then, your drivers, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, and Carl Edwards of those times. But I'm going to bring up the results now. The first thing I want to talk about was the open race beforehand. The winner of that race, I thought was going to be, and so did everyone else, thought it would be Shane Van Gisbergen, who did very well. Someone I did not expect to do well, someone who up until I think last week I mentioned that Shane Van Gisbergen is somebody that has entered the sport in a situation where he can only win at one racetrack, but I mean, he led over half the laps at North Wilkesboro in the open race. But the drivers you see near the bottom, Brad Keselowski, he made his way into the open. Then you have Carson Hocevar, who won the open race. That was very impressive. Carson Hocevar, I have talked very highly about the whole season. He's someone that I think will break through at some point. And as we heard throughout the whole weekend on Fox Sports, the whole mention is that the All-Star race can turn your season around. It looked like for Brad Keselowski, whenever he started on the pole, he would get his season turned around. Made the mistake there. John Hunter Nemechek finished second, not Brad Keselowski. But Brad Keselowski won the pole. John Hunter Nemechek finished second. That's something else. Legacy Motor Club has had back-to-back top 10 finishes. A team that has struggled has been considered the bottom feeder for Toyota, which makes sense because you've got your JGR, who works basically hand-in-hand with 2311. But overall, race weekend was great. I'm sorry if you were a fan of those drivers near the bottom. I was really hoping Harrison Burton would do well. I thought it would be really funny if he came up and just outperformed himself in the Cup Series after not racing there all season. But the last part of the weekend was something I want to mention as well, were the funny bits about it. Because it's the All-Star race weekend, you can kind of just be yourself, and I love the fact that when there's $1 million on the line, people tend to be themselves, including RFK Racing's Ryan Preece after a choose cone violation that basically cost him from transferring in to the transfer spot. You can see here, he's walking up with the cone. and decides, hey, I didn't think it was visible enough, so I'm just going to go put it right here. And I met Ryan Priest back at Homestead, Miami. I thought he was a great guy. First interaction I ever had with him. And overall, I tweeted this out. I think that he would become a fan favorite this season by the end of the year. He's someone that I've always rooted for due to the incidents he has had, flipping, all those accidents on the super speedways. But now I think it's at a point to where he's just a proven driver. He's someone that is competing for like the top spot at Roush Fenway Keselowski. He is putting on that role that we didn't really expect he would, but he's done it very well. But now I'm going to bring on Dylan Spaulding. Dylan, I'm going to bring you on now. I want to thank you for joining. Dylan has done a lot of writing covering multiple sports. Right now he's spending time mostly covering sports car racing that is American based for a European site, GT Report. But I mean, you also work for the Arkham Menards team, City Garage Motorsports. What is that like juggling with multiple motorsports in a type of career like that?
I'll be honest, Garon, and first off, thanks for having me on. Really happy to be on your show. Yeah, it gets to be I'm multi diverse, if you will, if that's a good word to use there. I'm a bit diverse with what I'm doing in terms of covering sports car racing and also covering NASCAR. But it's great. I mean, I get to learn more about different types of racing. Each racing is obviously different. If anybody knows anything about sports car racing, it's endurance styles. So you're trying to pace your car out to try to get to the finish, and usually sometimes 6 hours, heck, even 24-hour races. Where you got NASCAR races, usually you're going about 3 hours long with your car. A lot of different strategies, different things you're playing with. So it's a lot, dealing with different types of motorsports, but I have a lot of fun doing it, and it's just good being at the track, man. That's all that matters to me. So
Yeah, I'm the same way. I was there's just that sense of being around just engines, that smell of the garage. It's awesome no matter what's on a track, as long as there's an engine that, in my opinion, is gas power, not electric. No offense, but I enjoy being around the cars. The thing I wanted to ask you about was your time working in the Arkham Menard series. So right now you have a role as the social media director for City Garage Motorsports. What has that been like for you?
Oh, it's been great. Started the job in February. We had and there's our beautiful Ford Fusion there, the number 85 Arkham Menards car, sponsored by Orlando Health. It's been incredible getting to work with Stuart Weiss, our team owner, Becca Monopoly, who is our driver. This is a brand new team. There's only 6 races into this team's infancy, and I got a chance to meet Stuart and the crew back last year in August when I was still covering for Sports Illustrated. No, Athlon, actually. Excuse me. I was covering for Athlon at the time, and I always enjoy covering kind of these smaller teams and giving them that publicity, because you just, first off, it's great for them. They get a little bit of shine on a national stage, and I felt like with them being a local team out of Lakeland, Florida, it's just something that's really, really cool. You get to kind of highlight this kind of hometown team, if you will. I'm maybe an hour away from the shop, and to be able to have a kind of a team right at your doorstep, it's a pretty neat thing. And I've gotten a chance to really connect with Stuart, and really got a chance to know him as a person, and as a human, and as a friend. And he's been so amazing to get to work with, that in February I got the call basically saying, hey, we need somebody running socials and doing some PR work and such as well for the team. And brought me in. We had the interview, and the rest is history, man. And got a chance to. I mean, obviously, I love Daytona. I've been to Daytona many times. Got to work it this year as a part of the team. Worked at Pensacola. Worked at Talladega. Although we didn't get to run the Talladega race, it was still amazing to be there, be at Talladega, be with the team. We got a big stretch coming up here. We got 2 back-to-back races here in June, and then go to IRP in July, and then wrap it up in Toledo in October. So it's going to be a fun last stretch here in season number 2, and there's a lot of exciting things on the way that we're really pumped to share with the rest of the fans and the media, just like yourself, Garon. And it's going to be a fun few months here for the CGM family.
So, with your role as working PR and social media, but
Yep.
also on the side, also being a reporter for and not strictly for ARCA, but I mean just motorsports in general, has that given you some type of like multiple perspective attitude of okay, how does like seeing how a certain team works on the inside, but also seeing how it works just as a reporter on the outside?
Oh, 100%. I mean, being able to not only have work with a team, obviously working with a team, but also having worked with teams from a reporter standpoint, from the reporter kind of media relations, kind of relationship that you build. It's been crucial. I mean, I've been able to learn so much from being a reporter and being with these media relations members and seeing how they approach their job on a day-to-day basis, what they bring to the table, not only for the fans, whether it be through social media or through PR, but also how they bring it to the table for the media as well. There's a lot of little kind of nuances and things that media relations individuals do for their race team to help better promote their team out to the general public and to us as media members. So I picked up a lot. I think there's a lot of things I have been able to learn from doing reporting that has translated over to now me working for a race team. And again, obviously we're in the ARCA Menard series. We don't always get maybe the love that the Craftsman Truck Series or the Xfinity Series or the NASCAR Cup Series does, but I mean, listen, we are a strong foundational series for developing drivers. I mean, you look at all the amazing drivers that are in the Cup Series. A lot of them went through ARCA to start their career, and it's a series that you see teams like Joe Gibbs compete in, and you're seeing teams like Rhett Jones Racing and Nitro and Venturini and all these really actually strong foundational programs that are really helping build drivers. And we are fortunate to be a part of that obviously group as well. We're again a young team, only 6 races in. There's a lot for us to learn and grow with, but we always try to do our work in a professional manner, and we try to be, even if it's just from the way we market ourselves, we try to be on that echelon of we want to look like Joe Gibbs, right? We want to look like these teams to say, hey, this team's got something going here. So I've learned a lot from being around a lot of these, different teams and their media people, and just kind of learning and picking up things that have really helped me grow in my job with CGM. So it does translate a lot.
Yeah, so this weekend, so last weekend, NASCAR was in North Carolina, North Wilkesboro. They're staying in
Yep.
North Carolina, going to be at Charlotte. So with the roles you've had in your career, to where you have covered motorsports, European, your sports cars that are more known to be on the European side of things. If people think of American, they think of drag racing and NASCAR. Those are your 2 big American things. But what is it like for someone who does reporting for those motorsports that travel and want to be international? What makes it difficult for NASCAR, who's very regional, but is going to go to Mexico City here in 3 weeks, 2 weeks? What's hard for NASCAR to reach out there to Europe compared to Europe reaching out to America?
So and it's interesting because now it's funny, NASCAR has actually made that jump over to Europe with the NASCAR Euro Series, and I was watching their races this weekend. It's a lot different than your typical NASCAR race. A lot of those races are more road courses, which you'll see with the Euro Series, the Brazilian Series, the Mexico Series. NASCAR Canada is a bit more similar to what NASCAR regular is. They do run short track races. They run on ovals. Like that is something that they do. But like in NASCAR Euro, it's completely different. It's a different beast. But you're also seeing teams now who are racing here in the States in NASCAR actually competing in some of those European series. As I mentioned, Rhett Jones Racing, a team that races in ARCA, and people maybe know them because of Cletus McFarland, who's been running races for them the last couple of times, and he'll be running this weekend at Charlotte with the team. They're running NASCAR Euro Series races, and you know, NASCAR is trying to implement themselves into other racing series, but it is a little bit different, right? It's almost more kind of like Trans Am a little bit. And that's kind of what I would relate it to. I don't know if anybody is familiar with Trans Am, but very similar in terms of how the cars are. They're stock cars, but they're more based for the road courses, and it's kind of the best of both worlds, if you will, when it comes to some of these European or international series that NASCAR owns it with their properties. So yeah, it's interesting to see kind of where NASCAR is like going internationally. Obviously Mexico City, they're still kind of staying in the States, if you will. So it's not a huge leap, I feel like, for NASCAR in terms of racing internationally. I think a big thing that really brought NASCAR internationally was the Le Mans Garage 56 entry. I mean, that when that was announced and that actually was put on the map, and for how successful that was, not only from a just performance level, but also again, that car was really competitive. I mean, it was one of the better cars in the field against other cars that were racing for the Le Mans win. So, honestly, in my opinion, I think that's what really helped put NASCAR globally back on the map is that Le Mans 50 Garage 56. And I can't wait for that documentary to come out here in a couple weeks on Amazon Prime. I think that's going to be a fascinating story to read because, again, I really do believe that was a huge step in the right direction for NASCAR in terms of growing their fan base internationally.
Yeah, the Garage 56 car, we talked about it a couple of days ago, just in a personal call, just about that picture of the car in the middle of the grid and
Yep.
just how cool it looked. But I want to move ahead now. Well, I kind of want to move back with you on the All-Star Race weekend because something that I've not really taken the time to do here in the United States, a very popular thing for a series for your major sports to have an All-Star event. You look at the NFL now with their flag football, whatever that is, the NBA, the NHL, NASCAR does it. Is there anything that other sports that the other motorsports racing leagues do that is equivalent to an all-star race, or is it really just an American thing?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I mean, drag racing kind of has a bit of an all-star race per se. NHRA does. Again, I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest NHRA fan. I don't want to make anybody feel bad that NHRA is just not. It doesn't get the same media attention as some of these other
Mm-hmm.
racing series do, unfortunately. IndyCar kind of did something last year with the exhibition at Thermal. That kind of was a 1 year thing. Now they're racing there they're racing at that track for a points race. And with IMSA, it's one of those things where there's an all-star race. I don't know. I don't think those really fit for those type of series. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe, right? I think for NASCAR, I think the big thing is it's like an all-star race for them is like, I think they're again like you're saying they're taking it a play on kind of the Americanness of having an all-star race, right? And I think it's one of those things where I just feel like NASCAR, they like playing into like with the in season tournament, right? Like kind of
Yeah.
what's popular. They kind of like playing into like, all right, what's kind of this trendy move right now that we could join into, and the in season tournament is a great example of that as well. So I don't know if any other series really could do it per se. I mean, just in terms of like the quality of the drivers on the grid, and obviously NASCAR is the same thing, with the quality of the drivers. Again, it's all a TV thing, really. I think at the end of the day for this All Star race, and it's another way of saying, hey, we could bring our races to kind of these unique locations, kind of do some trial and error stuff. I think maybe IndyCar could get away with it. I don't know if IMSA could. I feel like it's just not really a series that I think would work for like kind of a all-star race. But I think I think IndyCar could definitely do an all-star race. I think if there's any series that it will be next for an all-star race, probably be IndyCar. That's probably the next on the list.
That would be pretty cool, I think. I obviously am very excited for Sunday. I know you are too. I'm sure everyone that will be watching and joining us is going to be excited as well, not
Yep.
just because of the Coke 600, but because of the Indy 500 before that. And then for the last time, Monaco, which F1 overall, it's kind of, I mean, Monaco is just F1's outgrown itself at Monaco. There's a reason why they've moved it, but the NASCAR driver Kyle Larson will be driving in the Indy 500, weather permitting. It looks like weather is going to impact both the Indy 500 and Charlotte race weekend. But what is that going to be like overall for IndyCar fans that aren't familiar with Kyle Larson? And then what about NASCAR fans that aren't that too familiar with IndyCar?
Well, I'll say this. I definitely think that the amount of crossover between IndyCar and NASCAR has definitely grown since last year, especially with Larson having competed already in the Indy 500. Especially him deciding he was going to choose Indy 500 over NASCAR. That was, I think, a big story in itself. That I think it really kind of showcased, like, how important this race meant to Kyle Larson. Obviously, this year's a bit different. NASCAR has really put the foot down and been like, listen, you have to race in this NASCAR race or you won't make it into the playoffs. So I think it's a much easier decision for Larson this year when it comes to whether or not he will decide to stay in Indy or if he will go to Charlotte for the Coke 600. Obviously, I think it's going to be the latter of the two, but I mean, it's great for the sport, right? Like anytime you can have this double happen where you have somebody as amazing as Kyle Larson, and they put the video out too recently, the little like video package they did with him playing Connect Four with himself,
Yeah.
and then Dirt Kyle Larson comes in. I mean, the guy's incredible, right? I mean, he's arguably the Tony Stewart of this era, and that's who I would consider him in terms of kind of translating into is is somebody who just races in everything and he just wins in everything. Like Tony Stewart, you look at him, wins at dirt races, wins in IndyCar races. He's found success in NASCAR, winning championships, and now he's winning races in NHRA. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he just came off a win this weekend. Yeah,
he did. Yeah. So I mean, Kyle Larson is our modern day Tony Stewart right now as we speak, and for what he's been able to accomplish, it's incredible. And it's exciting, obviously, to have him back this year. I do think, obviously, like the story obviously is not all on him. I think now, especially after Robert Schwartzman picked up the pole on Sunday, that is probably the biggest story of the weekend. Is probably Robert Schwartzman earning pole in his rookie year with a rookie team. I think that's going to be exciting to watch early on in the race. But again, it's still great to have him in the field. Again, he's a big name in racing, and hopefully it will bring a lot of eyes not only to the race on Fox, but also to the race later on in the night on Amazon Prime, and hopefully there'll be a lot of crossover. I mean, again, it can't hurt NASCAR. That's all that I'll say. It can't hurt NASCAR at all.
Yeah, sadly, well, I can't really say sadly because I'll be at the racing this weekend out in Charlotte. Sadly, I'll miss the first broadcast on Prime, which I am very excited for. But I now just want to focus on the track itself, Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's the home of NASCAR, just in the sense of that's where all the teams are basically located, all your big name teams around the area. Your thoughts overall on just the Charlotte race weekend itself? Well, do you think that it should be as big as people say it is? Is it still the crown jewel, in your opinion, that it used to be?
100%, especially with it being on Prime this year. I think it brings a little bit more excitement. Kind of people I think wondering how the Amazon Prime broadcast is going to look and the feel of it and stuff. Obviously, having Dale Jr. on the broadcast is going to be nice, and I do think that this year it feels like it's been heightened a bit more, right? Like with the switch over to Amazon Prime and with it kind of being one of its kind of 5 races to kind of highlight their calendar. So I mean, it definitely is. It's a 600-mile race. It's one of the it is the longest race of the season. It's exciting. It's always been one of my favorite races. It kind of caps off what has been an amazing day. Obviously, Indy 500 you got right before that. Excuse me, and that's always usually an exciting way to kind of fill up the afternoon, and then you go into this Coke 600, and usually it's usually been a great race. So. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, again, no weather impacts at all. But I mean, you got a 40-car field. There was a chance that 41 cars could have been showing up here. We could have had our first ever DNQ outside of Daytona for a race, which would have been insane. But it's going to be a good field. A lot of exciting things are going to happen, hopefully, this weekend. And I do think it is one of the crown jewels. It has to be. I mean, Charlotte's a special place given that it's, as you mentioned, the home of a lot of these NASCAR teams, and I think every team wants to win in Charlotte. And also, too, you have a lot of teams who run in NASCAR who also run in IndyCar. I mean, think about it. You could have Team Penske sweep two of the three big races. Obviously, you have Haas. I mean, I don't think Haas is going to win the F1 race, but I mean, God forbid, Haas could potentially win F1 in Monaco and potentially win NASCAR at Charlotte. I mean, you just never know. So we'll see what happens. It should be an exciting weekend. But yeah, I do believe Charlotte is one of the crown jewels. It's on an amazing racing day. It does get overshadowed, I think, by the IndyCar race. I think especially this year with it being on the main Fox channel. But it being on Prime helps. The last couple of years, it feels like the race has kind of been on like non-national television. I think it's kind of brought the prestige of it down a little bit. So I'm excited.
Well, Dylan, I want to thank you for joining today. It was really insightful just about the talking of the ARCA series, of just the other series that aren't NASCAR. So I just want to thank you again for joining.
Absolutely, Garon. Thanks so much for having me on, my friend. Really, really great to talk to you. And yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun weekend of racing. Looking forward to it. And you have fun up in Charlotte, my friend. I'm jealous. I wish I was up there. I've at least got to go to the Daytona 500. You've been as well. We know how special that race is. So you're gonna have a blast up at the Coke 600. You're getting to knock off a huge crown jewel event for NASCAR. So have fun up there, buddy.
I'm excited. And Dylan, thank you again for joining.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That was Dylan Spaulding joining the show. I got in touch with him last week. He's been a fun guy to talk to. Big motorsports fan. And overall, he's a great reporter, great content, puts a lot of work into what he does. And if you want to go check him out, you can just look him up for his work online. But I want to thank him again for joining. And the last thing I want to do now is just talk about the Coca-Cola 600, the drivers I think that should stand out. So looking at the list here, I'm a big fan of trends. Whenever I make my sports bets, motorsports bets, NASCAR, I go with trends. And because I think that is your best value to lie on. So I'll go ahead and just give the driver I think has a great shot of winning. That's Tyler Reddick. He sits at plus 750 on DraftKings right now. And if you use the Bleacher Brothers link on our website, Bleacher Brothers, you will get once you put in $5, you get $200 in bonus bets. But I think that Tyler Reddick is a great pick for this weekend. He struggled. Well, not really struggled, but he hasn't performed as we thought he would. I mean, he's coming off of a regular season championship. And like we said, the All-Star race, you can turn it around. He didn't really perform that well in the All-Star race. I mean, he was a contender, but I think that the time comes now where 23XI might be able to gain another win. I mean, you've got Bubba Wallace, who I thought at Homestead he might be able to win if he could have held off against Alex Bowman and could have held off against Kyle Larson, who ended up winning that race. Tyler Reddick, obviously, we know can win. And Riley Herbst, we haven't seen him win yet, but in the lower series, he's won. So I think that this weekend, with how big of a race it is, 4 stages, it's a 4-stage race, 100 laps each stage, which I'm not going to get into about how I feel about that, but I'm sure you can tell by my reaction there. You know how I feel. But overall, I think that this is a weekend that Tyler Reddick could do well in. I think, though, we're going to have to go back to those big names. I'm going to not pick Kyle Larson because of just the long day he has. Tony Stewart did the double. He ended up performing well, but didn't win. I would not be shocked for a Kyle Larson top 5, Kyle Larson top 10. Obviously wouldn't be shocked, but I do think it's going to be somebody else. I think that Kyle Busch may have a good shot. I bring him up every now and then because he's a driver that has been known to get wins, and he hasn't done it recently. But this weekend, a crown jewel event, maybe he could turn it around. I mean, think about it this way. Kyle Busch, since 2022, on the 3 races, the Coca-Cola 600s that he's ran. Remember, last season, this race was shortened by halfway, like literally halfway. Christopher Bell won it. But Kyle Busch has a top 5, 2 top 10s, and he's typically starting up front. He has an average start of 8th, and he's finishing at 7.7. Now, that doesn't mean he's not passing people well, but that just means he's consistent at the track. And consistency is a big thing for this race. It is an endurance race. It's not how it used to be, to where you had to keep going and hope for cautions. 100 laps are good. Another 100 laps are good. And then a break. And then 100, you're done. But if weather plays a role here, which it looks like it will, I don't know if it will impact the start of the race, the middle of the race, maybe it'll go away, then it could be an odd weekend. We could have a Coke 600 where the top 5 drivers are drivers you can't even name for yourself, and that's what I'm struggling to from, I believe, 2007. So obviously can be an odd weekend, but it should be an exciting one. The driver I think will win will be Christopher Bell, because of the fact that he's already won 3 races this season, coming off the All-Star race win. And like I said, I love trends. Trends are a big thing for me. And I think the way that he's been driving, the way that he's looked, I think that this is going to be another great weekend for him. But that's all I've got now for the show. I appreciate you guys for joining. I want to thank Dylan for joining me earlier as well. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great Motorsports Christmas, Motorsports Holiday, however you want to call it. To me, it's just the best day in the world. But I want to thank you guys again for joining, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Thank you so much.